The March 10th, 2020 Peralta Community College's Board of Trustees meeting will convene shortly. Currently, the board is in closed session considering personnel and other matters. When they emerge, we'll start the meeting. Tonight's meeting will feature a presentation on student success and various action items, including authorizing a contract for network equipment for the College of Alameda. The meeting will begin shortly. Please stay tuned.
Madam Clerk. Where are our
Madam
trustees?
President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I will call the meeting to order, and we will begin the Pledge of Allegiance with Student Trustee Stanley. Please stand. Thank you. Please be seated. And thank you for your patience this evening. Welcome to the March 10th Peralta Board of Trustees meeting. And I do have a VP trustee, but before we get there, here she comes. All eyes on the Madam Vice President, nice of you to show up.
Thank you. Had a woman use the restroom around here?
Madam Vice President, do we have any report out of action taken in closed session?
Yes, at tonight's closed session, the board took actions on the following matters. Number one, consistent with COLA granted to Local 39 and PFT members, the Chancellor recommends approval of 3.26% COLA for the remaining employee groups, confidential employees and administrators, retroactive to July 1st, 2019. Motion by Trustee Brown, second by Trustee Withrow. Ayes 5, noes 2, abstain 2, UN and Weinstein. Number two, the board voted to not reemploy the following administrator. Employee ID number 10773932. Motion by Trustee Withrow, second by Trustee Brown. Ayes 7, no 0, abstain 0. Madam President, that concludes the closed session readout for tonight.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. We will move to approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and second. We actually have a change to the agenda that we'd like to read out. Thank you.
Just so we're clear, for the COLA action, the abstain was 2 for Ewan and Weinstein. And the noes were 0. We're good?
Yes.
Okay.
We have, do we have an approval on the agenda in a second? Yes, I thought I heard that. There was an approval, Trustee Gonzalez-Wynn, a second from Student Trustee Stanley. There are some adjustments to the agenda, and one I would like to start out with as a point of privilege is we'd like to move action item 10.2, and we would like to move that right after public communication, if you're okay with that. Any other, you got to remind me when we get to public communication, right, as soon as we're done. Any other changes to the agenda? Trustee Gonzalez?
Could we move item 9.1 to action and divide 9.1 as we did in our last meeting into sections A and then separately consider B and C?
So I will take 9.1, move into action, and that's it for that item. Until we get to that item, there will have to be a vote on changing any structure of that particular item. Thank you. Any other changes to the agenda? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez-Wynn?
Yes.
Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
For your motion. Trustee Napoli-Abella Reese? Yes. Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
And then I'll go over to Student Trustee Contreras. Yes. Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes 3.6. May I have a motion?
So moved.
A second. It's been moved and second. Roll call, please.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen? Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown? Trustee Napolia-Bellarice? And Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move to item 3.8, Peralta Classified Senate Report.
Students, Associated Students?
Right. Where'd my students?
Where is their Madam President?
They're all here.
Madam President does apologize, or at least I do on her behalf.
Thank you. Okay. Hanson. Yep. I appreciate you. Okay. Good evening, Board of Trustees, and good evening, Chancellor Stanback-Stroud. I do want to start my speech by saying and voicing the concerns of some of my constituents, so it's on a heavier note. I've noticed a lot of Merritt students are anxious, and they are very uneasy and don't know what to do about the COVID virus, so COVID-19, and that we feel that there is a direction that is needed and reassurance from our board. So that's what we're seeking, especially the Merritt students and the Board of Trustees. So in this matter of safety and risk of our academic achievement. So we're trying to find the good balance of keeping our students safe and making sure that we as students are safe, but also trying to not lose in our academic achievement is what we're seeking from our Board of Trustees. But on a positive note, I do want to say thank you to the board and show appreciation for all the new staff hires that Merritt has had. We do have a new dean. We do have a lot of new directors, and I actually really want to particularly thank our new director of student activity and campus life, Doris Brinkley-Higgins. So I'm happy that we finally have a director this semester, and like one clap. And that concludes my report. And I also didn't say my name, so I am Spencer Stagger-Zilmore, the Associated Student, President of the Associated Students of Merritt College Incorporated.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Max Frinke, President of the Associated Students of Berkeley City College. And before I begin my report, I would like to first address the obvious concern that has impacted our country, our state, and at this most pressing hour, the Peralta Colleges, COVID-19. This past week, I've heard many complaints and concerns from students with regards to COVID-19, and many are concerned about their safety at our school. Universities across the country have canceled in-person classes due to the outbreak of COVID-19, and many of those universities have been household names, including Harvard, UC Berkeley, Stanford, Princeton, Tufts, Columbia, and also local schools, including UC Berkeley, Santa Cruz, CCSF, UC Santa Barbara, Santa Clara. The list goes on and on. At this point, 6 out of 9 UCs have canceled in-person classes due to the outbreak of coronavirus, at least until spring break, many of those canceling classes until summer. And so, to say the least, it has not been taken lightly by this country on an academic level. This is not to shed negative light on what the Peralta colleges have done, and in fact, BCC has been doing an excellent job of handling the situation. Today, our wonderful professor of economics, Christopher Bernard, had a workshop where he taught teachers, on how to handle Zoom and Canvas. So I'm thankful for that. And BCC has also been increasing preparatory supplies such as sanitizer and soap and hand wipes. So I'm thankful for that as well. But unfortunately, it is not enough. Coronavirus represents the biggest health threat to our country since the outbreak of AIDS. and is showing itself to be more contagious. Major events have been canceled left and right, and I believe, BCC, students believe, faculty members believe that our administration must take action. For the sake of our safety, the board must take action. Thank you. On a more positive note, I would like to talk about what we've done at the ASBCC. So ASBCC elections are coming up, and so far we've had a solid turnout. That is a good sign for the future of BCC. And on April 22nd, we will be hosting an Earth Day event, hopefully, so that we can bring in guest speakers to discuss methods of reducing our negative footprint on the world. And we will be providing aluminum bottles to hopefully encourage students to reduce their use of plastic. And today, the ASBCC hosted a recap for orientation for students. It was called Getting to Know About ASBCC. And at this event, we had guest speakers from the counseling department, international affairs. We had a student who transferred from BCC to Cal, and also a current CCC student to discuss the resources available at BCC and provide students an opportunity to ask questions about essential BCC resources. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. My name is Israel, and I currently serve as the ASCOA president. So as it is a harried time and there's some anxiety in the air, I would like to invite everyone to pause and take a deep breath with me. So can we do it one more time? One more time. And then, oh, sorry. One more time, not in the mic. And thank you, friends. Laughs and giggles. So, okay. So here is my report. So today, this evening, ASCOA held family game night, and it happened from 5 to 6 p.m. And the intent of this event was to reinforce the community and community college. And good news is that from College of Alameda having 0 student clubs, now we do have 3 popping and alive clubs. And thank you to name them. First one is Sari Sari Club, which is the Filipino club. Phi Theta Kappa, which she is a part of, and I'll introduce her later. And the last one is Black Student Union. And yes, and also I want to extend my gratitude to President Tim for stopping by at our AS meeting this Monday. And also, I would like to extend my gratitude to VPSS Vasconcelos for our collab meetings that do happen often. Another thing is that there is going to be a student-led Flex Day workshop that is thank you. Thank you, friends. And that is hypothetically going to happen on March 19th. Hypothetically, given that COVID is, out and about. And that the title of that workshop is going to be What Your Students Need for You to Know, and in parentheses, in order for them to become successful. And this has been researched, and a lot of conversation has been done to make this happen, a lot of work. And we do invite you, if and when it is to happen, on March 19th from 11 to 12. Noon. And then also want to add, I had the opportunity to meet with Dean Kit Dye of CCSF North Beach, and we were able to meet in an interstate Census Bureau meeting in Irvine, and it was good to know that CCSF is gearing towards getting their students counted in the 2020 census, which brings my next point. Given that COVID-19 is just out and about, and it is inspiring fear in each and every one of us. There is a huge threat that our communities will be undercounted, and once our communities will be undercounted, that is proportional to our funding and also to our representation on the local and state level. So just want to let you know about that. And also, COVID, it is happening, and I had the opportunity, intentionally made the opportunity to survey students today. And this was prior to the idea of moving spring break to next week, which all students disagreed to happen. Students are erring on the side of a decision being made based on safety and efficiency. Spring break being moved next week is deemed inefficient by those students that I had interviewed, given that a lot of plans have already been planned. And I also did a quick survey in my Poli-Sci 4 class that happens Tuesday evenings from 5 to 8:30, so now. And we have elected a student representative who is also missing class with me to speak for COA students in our Poli-Sci 4 class. Her name is Daniela Dula, and she is currently COA's PTK Communications Officer. So Daniela?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. So one of the conversations that we brought up in class today particularly was about the coronavirus and whether or not we would be okay with moving our spring breaks forward a week, well, next week. A lot of us disagreed that it would be a good idea because it interferes with a lot of our students' plans. One, students have already booked flights. It's very difficult for us to cancel. We've already arranged for time off from work. As many of you may know, community college students do practically work. And one of the other things that we did mention is that we would prefer to make more of an efficient transition. One of the ideas that was brought up was mainly converting more to Canvas and using that as an online forum. Or Zoom, for example. And the other thing is that we have students that are co-enrolled over at UC Berkeley. As you know, Berkeley City and UC Berkeley have a program going on. And so for students that are going to UC Berkeley who have already transitioned to hybrid classes or to Zoom, it wouldn't be particularly favorable for them to have their spring break moved. It would kind of not cause, it would cause issues with homework and, getting their course load correctly measured. Other things that we brought up was that we don't know if the virus may continue to get worse in the future. For us to say that 1 week, next week is gonna be a solution is not the most efficient. It's better for us to say, to prepare for the future. And if it does happen to get worse, better for us to have that time off in the future. I don't think any of us know for certainty if it will get better or worse, but it's just better to be hopeful and have our time off when we do.
Okay. So last thing, not in the mic, take a deep breath. And thank you for the hard work that you do. Have a good evening.
Thank you for that.
Is that it? No, Laney?
All students.
Hi.
No, Mandy's not here, but they did say and they're thinking of all of you. So yeah, that's all they wanted to say.
Always love to hear from students, yes. Even if I did try to pass you up, right?
A
Okay.
1,000 apologies, yes?
Yes, 1,000 apologies. Okay,
Should I make one correction first?
yes, we will make a correction, thank you, to the readout.
Yes, we need to make one more correction for the closed session readout. For number 2, the board voted not to reemploy the following faculty, not administrator, employee ID 10773932.
Thank you for that. And we will now move to classified Senate report.
Good evening, President Bonilla, members of the Board of Trustees, Chancellor Stroud, presidents, and guests. Tonight we have only one campus report. The report is from the Berkeley City College Classified Senate. The Senate would like to extend a thank you to the district for providing continuous updates on COVID-19. As many classified staff have daily direct contact with students and public, getting up-to-date communication is important. The Senate is also scheduled to meet Tuesday, March 17th, for a Title IX presentation and to discuss adding additional meeting dates. It's currently scheduled to meet every third Tuesday of the month for College Hour. Also on the Senate's agenda are ways the Senate can support contract negotiations and COLA payment. And finally, lastly, the Senate sent out a revised classified survey to get deeper response on 2-year goals and ways to utilize professional development funds. They will review again on March 17th. That is the end of the campus reports. Thank you very much for your attention and support of the Peralta Classified Senate.
Thank you for that. We will move to Academic Senate report.
Good evening, President Bonilla, members of the board, the Chancellor, and all of us here today. Obviously, the topic of today and tomorrow, I guess you guys have a emergency board meeting. I wanted to say that the more information that goes out on email, and I appreciate the efforts that people have made to try to get out information to faculty and to everybody. And so I wanted to acknowledge that from our side. Although there are always different issues, multiple issues that have to be dealt with, I think that everybody recognized that it's a timely and a sense of emergency, as you see every day, new colleges or universities that announce how they're going to proceed. So I appreciate that. I think that there was a meeting today of the Laney Academic Senate. And at that meeting, the president of the college, James DeMille, came. And it was a good session because there was a good interaction and discussion about it. And there were more faculty at that meeting because they all wanted to hear what was going on. Oftentimes, the email messages, people get too busy in their lives to really look at those email messages. So hopefully, the district as well as the colleges will try to communicate in a variety of different ways so we could get to the part-timers and the ones who come at night and go home. I'm hoping that at our chairs meeting on Thursday, there'll be discussions, and the chairs could also, working with their deans, contact other faculty to alert them to what's going on. So that's the issue of the day. I think that part of what we have to do is to be flexible and to try to provide the kind of support. And I know that based upon today's discussion at the Laney Senate, there's going to be the kind of flexibility that's going to be needed in order to try to address the myriad of different types of classes and how students interact with their faculty. So I look forward to making sure that those discussions go on. On another note, it's kind of interesting moving the spring break. In one way, it's great because I was complaining that during spring break, we have our spring plenary, which is going to be the state plenary that's going to be over here in Oakland, California, in April during spring break. And so now I guess it won't be spring break, but we'll see how all of that goes. Most of the they've been assuring us that they're going to be continuing with their with the conference, and I'm assuming that the other people that have to go to conferences are planning on going to those conferences. So anyhow, I will look forward to the next board meeting and see how all of this rolls out. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We will move to public communications.
Madam President, there are no public communications tonight.
Thank you. Our next item will be 10.2, consider approval of nomination of California Community College Classified Employee of the Year Award. Chancellor?
Thank you, Trustee Bonilla, President Bonilla, members of the trustees, remaining trustees, and the members of the dais here, my colleagues, friends in the audience. It is my pleasure to bring this item before you. Each year, the California Community College Chancellor's Office identifies and recognizes a classified Employee of the Year that demonstrates their highest commitment to the vision for success and the mission of the California Community Colleges. Each of the districts in the system are encouraged to send a single nominee. And then typically in a district that is a multi-college district, the colleges each make a nomination, and the district can make a nomination, and then the district makes a decision as to who will be the representative for this district at the state level. Then all of the representatives from the state level are considered, and the Board of Governors selects a person to be the classified employee of the year for the state of California in the California Community Colleges. We have gone through that process, and we're bringing forward a nominee for you to consider to represent the Peralta Community College District. And if I can have President Gilkinson talk a little bit about that nominee once you take on the item.
We are going to, you want us to approve the item first before, I'm trying to get clarification. We'll go ahead and turn it over to President Gilkerson. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm so pleased to be here tonight to share the nomination from Laney College. Both the Vision for Success and in our mission of Laney College, we seek to inspire students to achieve high levels of performance and reach their goals in an inclusive and diverse learning environment. To this end, I have to say our classified professionals play a key role in supporting students through the design and delivery of high-quality, student-focused services and support that help facilitate student learning. This tireless service to students is exemplified by Ms. Kin Tran, who has devoted over 32 years of her life to the community here at Laney College. So, stand up.
32 years.
So Ken, why don't you come up while I just say a couple of quick things about you. Here. Wait. So as Laney College's bursar, Ken ensures that students are well informed and assists them with the disbursement of scholarships and payroll checks and receiving and processing student fee payments so they can successfully enroll in their classes. In addition to completing these essential tasks, Ken performs reconciliation of bank statements, and she really tirelessly puts students first. I have to tell you, Ken does not like to be in the spotlight at all. We had to do a lot to convince her to be here. And honestly, when you talk to folks around the campus, she is one, they'll say, so unassuming and never wants the limelight, but she goes over and beyond every single day. She shows up consistently. The commitment to excellence and service can be seen in her advancement to position. So I want to tell the board, this is true Laney College, Peralta Community College District grit. This woman started as a part-time employee in 1987 as an account clerk and moved to higher positions, including accounting technician, and later as a full-time permanent bursar in 2005. And she has been serving us tirelessly since then. She is the full representation of this district and the grit and resilience and the amazing service of our communities. And bursars often go unseen and unheard and unappreciated. So I'm pleased to present this nominee to you tonight for consideration.
And Madam President, can we have you come down to the front? Have you come down to the front?
On behalf of the board and the students across Peralta, thank you so much. Thank you. Please say some words. We would love to hear you say something. Hold on.
Give the flowers back. Come to me.
This way. Okay, trustee, you want this one?
Oh, trustees?
Oh.
There you go. Mr. You should get in there.
Emil, you need to be in there.
Yeah, you should be in there.
All right, that's all right.
Did they move and approve it yet?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for Chancellor and Board Trustee selected me today. And also thank you, Laney Community, who nominate me for today to be the Classified Employee of the Year. And especially thankful our President, Gilkerson, VP Pinto, and the Director, Amy Mazo, and my partner, Leticia Heredia, because without their support, I cannot be nominated for today. I cannot finish my work. Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. That was fantastic. We are going to take a formal vote on this, so I'd like to consider approval of the nomination.
Yes.
Would you like me to finish reading?
Oh,
or-
yeah, go ahead.
Consider approval of the nomination of California Community College's Classified Employee of the Year Award. May I have a motion?
I motion.
Second.
And you have at least 3 seconds. And for the record, we'll take a roll call vote on this. Thank you.
Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Thank you so much. Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen? Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice?
With acclamation.
And Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Very good.
And congratulations.
We will move to item 3.11, Chancellor's Report. Chancellor?
Okay. Thank you very much, President Bonilla and members, trustees, members here on the dais, and my friends and loved ones in the audience. It is my pleasure to bring this report to you today. The first thing I want to start off with, though, which is something that I know is on everyone's mind, and that is just a little information about what we're doing and how we're approaching the issue of the coronavirus. Beginning several weeks ago, we started communicating regularly with the faculty, staff, faculty and staff administration in the district to let them know the discussions we were having, remind them of the resources that were available, and to connect them to the appropriate communications. We also engaged in collaboration with the local health officials, the Alameda County Public Health Department. We followed guidelines that were provided by CDC, as well as recommendations from the local health department. We immediately started addressing our emergency operations plan, and at that time had no confirmed cases in our area or in our institutions. And we continue to follow the advice of the Public Health Department and the resources of the CDC. It then escalated at one point when we thought that there were 2 students who could possibly have been exposed, and we went into a full emergency operations center implementation, convened, canceled much of the activity that we were doing with regard to our regular work, and prioritized an emergency operations center operation at the district office for several hours. Worked in collaboration with the Public Health Department as well, and with all of the information that was received and all of the clarification about the possibility of the connection, and learned that the possible students were 3 and 4 degrees away from possible contact. We continue to follow the recommendations of the Public Health Department and did not increase the acuity of the scenarios. As the news began to come out and other colleges and universities were starting to make their decisions, and while the language has been shortcut to say like UC Berkeley closed or San Francisco City College closed, actually there have been a decrease in programs and services and instruction in order to minimize the number of people that would be gathering together. So instruction is still taking place in some places, but things have been moved to different modalities. If there are types of classes that could not be moved, like for an example, dance, or labs, then those are still taking place on several of those institutions. I also went into had a conversation with the Chancellor of the Cal State CSU East Bay today, and we shared some of the things that we were discussing as well. When we met yesterday, we agreed that we needed to reach out to PFT because we're starting to see implications for making some changes in terms of when we have classes and things that might affect the academic schedule. So we reached out to PFT, and Dr. Brown, particularly Dr. V.C. Whitaker, and the PFT president, Jennifer Shanowski, had conversations, and we came up with a proposal about what we think we need to do, where we need to go next. Also do know that in the meantime, we were changing the protocols that included things like changing cleaning protocols, ordering hand sanitizer. Though we've been trying to get bulk orders, or we've been working through the purchasing process to do that, the demand for that is so high that it is increasingly hard for us to get it. And we learned today, for an example, that it would take several weeks to get it. So we're trying all different types of strategies. In the meantime, DGS has just simply been purchasing hand sanitizers and putting it in the offices, and they also have been posting signs in the bathrooms and those types of things. So we're still doing those types of processes. V.C. Brown convened the Distance Education Committee and immediately began working on institutional continuity measures, and that would be making sure that students can still get credit for their classes in the event that we had to have a cessation of instruction for a long period of time. As you know, in order to meet the standards for the Carnegie unit, they have to meet a certain number of hours, and if you are out too long, then you compromise the ability of those classes to make a difference, and so the students would have lost what they've already invested in. So we've been working closely with the State Chancellor's Office, following all the processes in order to get the addendums done, because there are curriculum standards that have to be met, and then also strategizing to make sure that people would have an opportunity to either shift to a different mode of instruction, and we go through the State Chancellor's Office process in order to allow that during this time, or if their class doesn't lend to that, there are different modes that include online and other remote teaching modes. Or it could be that faculty choose to make the classes up if we have to stop classes, that they make the classes up by attending on the weekends or Friday, or when they're not normally scheduled. Or we work with the union in order to make a recommendation around the expansion of the semester so that faculty would have the opportunity to be able to offer the number of hours in instruction in order for the students to get the credit that they need. We now are at the point of making or preparing to make a recommendation. What we are, and we're recognizing that, you know, people need to get this information. We've been in full mode all day long, trying to pull all the pieces together, work with all of the people, collaborate on the items that we need to, because some of the issues are negotiable. Here's where we've landed in collaboration with the collective bargaining unit. We are going to recommend that we cancel classes beginning tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. Those 3 days are just simply canceling classes And it would also, it means that the district continues to be open, the colleges continue to be open, the staff will continue to come to work, but we would decrease exponentially the number of people that are convening in a public space. We'll take advantage of that time to give faculty the support that they need if they want to increase their instruction in terms of learning how to use the online platform, getting up to speed on Canvas if they're not, or coming up with learning about other teaching modalities. And so that would be those 3 days. And then we have proposed that the board, which has been noticed, have an emergency meeting tomorrow and consider a change in the academic calendar. We work with PFT in order to make that recommendation. That change in the academic calendar would move spring break from the existing spring break to the following week. I know that some people spoke about that in a negative light because they were concerned about airfares and those types of things. Understand that our priority is about trying to decrease the possibility of the spread of any and exposure of any infectious disease, and so that protocol actually takes precedence over the convenience of spring break plans. And then what we're recommending is that then in the following week that we have that instruction resumes, but it resumes using the remote teaching options that faculty may have and the online options that faculty have in order to do it. What that would do would be, and then the following week is 2 days. The first 2 days are a flex day and Cesar Chavez holiday. What that would effectively do is give us 3 weeks of time where there's a decreased amount of public amassing and where there's a lot of time, some opportunity for further planning, further action, further interventions, and quite frankly, a time for some de-escalation of some of the concerns and the anxieties. And so that's, I just wanted to put that out there in terms of that's what we're going to be proposing. The board is going to consider that action tomorrow at an emergency closed session. Okay, that's one piece.
Thank you.
Shall I continue with the?
Okay, yes, no,
Yes.
please.
All right. The next thing is I would like to, as a part of the Chancellor's report, I would like to actually read into the record a response to an item. And we worked with council in order to formulate this response. So in the interest of giving credit where credit is due, this response was formulated with the guidance of council. And this is in relationship to Mr. Marcus Crawley's comments. He came here at the last board meeting, and he presented himself as a member of the Bond Measurement Oversight Committee. He actually is a member of the district's Bond Measure Oversight Committee, but the comments that he made at the District Board of Trustees meeting on February the 25th, 2020, were made as a private citizen and were not endorsed in any manner by the Bond Oversight Committee. And we do have the chair of the Bond Oversight Committee here that I'm going to ask her to make a couple of comments for about 2 minutes when I finish this statement. Mr. Crawley is the president of the Alameda County Taxpayers Association, Incorporated. He asked to be placed on the agenda so that he could comment on his interpretation of the term of each member of the Bond Oversight Committee. In short, Mr. Crawley misinterpreted a basic legal principle as it is applied to fill in vacated seats on the district's Oversight Committee. Mr. Crawley's comments, however, wandered off topic, and in doing so, he made multiple inaccurate complaints about alleged attempts to stifle oversight. Eventually, he was asked by one of the trustees to conclude his remarks. Although Mr. Crawley had already departed the building and the board had moved on to the next agenda item, and it was in the process of voting on that next agenda item, one of the trustees departed from the rules of procedure and repeated from the dais some of Mr. Crawley's inaccurate statements. Given Mr. Crawley's gross misinterpretation of facts and the possibility that his comments could erroneously be taken for an official position of the Bond Measure Oversight Committee, the Chancellor instructed the staff to invite Ms. Andrea Dawson, the chair of the Bond Measures Oversight Committee, to the March 10th, 2020 Board of Trustees meeting so that she could provide accurate information to the trustees and to the public. The following is a summary of the inaccurate comments Mr. Crawley made at the February 25th, 2020 meeting and the responses from the attorney, Mr. William Turnick, at DWK that worked on the legal matters involving the district's oversight committees. Mr. Crawley alleged that the transition from a combined parcel tax and bond measure oversight committee to two committees was an attempt to limit oversight. In fact, it created an opportunity for more oversight, not less. The purpose of the transition was to facilitate additional oversight, going from one committee to two, and from 5 members to the current 12. This plan was supported by the then current and past chairs of the combined oversight committee. Mr. Crawley stated that the members of the prior committee were dismissed. This is incorrect. They were specifically asked if they wanted to serve on either or both of the new committees. 4 of the 5 members sought to be and were appointed to serve on the Parcel Tax Measures Oversight Committee, Parcel Tax Committee, and continue to serve. The council's understanding is that they felt it would be best for others to serve on the Bond Committee, so the Parcel Tax Committee had enough time to focus on the parcel tax. Mr. Crawley implied that steps taken have interfered with the Bond Committee's oversight responsibility. While the transition could have been smoother, both the Bond and the Parcel Tax Committees are now functioning. They have held 2 meetings and are working with district staff on their duties. This transition has alleviated the need for council to attend committee meetings as was done in the past. And Mr. Crawley suggested that the appointment of the Bond Committee members to serve less than 2 years violated Education Code Section 15282. Mr. Crawley inaccurately interpreted how this section of the Education Code and the bylaws of the committee itself apply to the vacated seats on the Bond Committee. This issue will become moot when the board appoints members for the full terms beginning in July 1, 2020. And with that, I would like to ask Ms. Dawson to step up to the mic, to the podium. Ms. Andrea Dawson is the chair of the Bond Oversight Committee.
Yes, I am the chair of your newly formed Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. And a little bit about me. So I've lived in Oakland for 35 years, and my daughter went through Oakland Public Schools, and my granddaughter is now a middle schooler in Oakland Public Schools. And I work for the bond program in management at San Francisco Unified School District, and have worked for many years in the construction industry on the public sector side. And I'm acquainted with your director, Mr. Lee Sada, so I'm happy to stand before you trustees and chancellor and introduce myself and say that I hope that what happened prior, I did follow the news, and it piqued my interest of what, how I thought a Citizen Bond Oversight Committee could be more effective and a better tool for the district, because we are actually the watchdog to the taxpayers, or we do report to the taxpayers, but in a more collaborative spirit that works with the district and with your vice chancellor of Facilities, Department of General Services, I guess is what it's called here. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to coming before you in the next few months after we do get the financial and performance report, which is required by law to be put before the Bond Oversight Committee at the same time as it comes to you as the district. And then we will be writing a report on that, and in turn come before you, and I will be speaking to you about what I see happening with your program. But I will say that one of the reasons that I applied to be on your committee is because I saw what was happening and the positive changes that I felt were coming to this district. I watched the transitions, and I, as I said, I'm acquainted with the good work of Dr. Sada, and so I thought, you know, this is a good opportunity for me to bring my 10 years of being on a bond oversight at Oakland Unified to the Peralta Colleges. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dawson. And then finally, I have 2 other parts of this report. The first thing is I will just let you know that I am preparing to go to the California Community College Board of Governors meeting. This is a meeting where on the agenda is the opportunity for the fiscal monitor for Peralta Community College District to give the Board of Governors an update on his perspective in terms of our progress. And I will attend that meeting. I have been invited to have 5 minutes to make any comments or give any response. I am preparing to make some comments, and in front of you, so you see the basis of those comments, I know that it's important for the Board of Governors to understand the progress that we're making on FITMAC. And so I am in the process of preparing a report to them and, quite frankly, to you on the progress we're making on FITMAC. And you have that draft in front of you right now. We will continue to refine it, and as things get implemented or completed, I'll continue to make the changes all the way up to the day that we are leaving. Also, I will be providing for the Board of Governors of the California Community Colleges a virtual binder, and that virtual binder will have all of the evidence that supports our accomplishments on the recommendations that we have. And that evidence, while I'll take one physical binder, all the rest of the board members will get a thumb drive that will have the virtual binder, so they'll have access to that. So that we are scheduled, I am scheduled to talk to the Board of Governors on the 17th of March. Wish me luck. It'll be good to see friends and loved ones there and be able to give them the progress. And quite frankly, I think we have good progress to report on the accomplishments of the different recommendations of FITMAC, of the Financial Crisis Management Assessment Team's recommendations. And then finally, if I can just go to the president's reports and have the college presidents make comments, and then I'll conclude my report at that. Starting with Dr. Budd.
Thank you, Chancellor. Board of Trustees, fellow administrators, faculty, staff, and students. This evening, I'd like to focus my comments on our tenure reception that just occurred tonight. I would like to first thank Dr. Siri Brown and Laura Leon Maurice for putting on a fabulous event to really highlight the incredible work that's happened on each campus on bringing in great faculty, helping them through the tenure process, and then them receiving tenure. Berkeley City College had 3 faculty members receive tenure this evening, and I would just like to highlight publicly a brief thing about each of them. Chris Bernard, you just heard about from our student, is our economics instructor. He is also a lawyer, so he's an economist, a lawyer, and he's our distance ed professor. And when I called him last week, he was happy to step up and help train our faculty on online modalities and working with the committee. So when I see faculty that are not only teaching but stepping up as leaders, we know a college is in incredible hands. Also receiving tenure this evening was Janine Greer, who is our mental health specialist. And I was actually here and hired her when I was president before. As we all know, it's so important to have people for our students in need, and having a mental health counselor that then brings in interns that continue to help is incredible. Not only does she share her knowledge with the college, Berkeley City College, but within the district. So I really want to congratulate Janine Greer. And our third faculty member that received tenure this evening was Melina Berzman, and she is a new psychology faculty. She has totally revamped our psychology curriculum and has also worked on a year-long tutoring redesign. And she is helping with guided pathways within our college. So really, tonight was a wonderful evening. Thank you, and congratulations to our new tenured faculty. Thank you very much.
Good evening, trustees and district community. On behalf of Laney College, I'm pleased to give this report. On March 5th and 6th, Laney College participated in the study of the future of work and community colleges led by the Community College Research Center, CCRC, at Teachers College Columbia University and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology Task Force on the Work of the Future. The study examines how community colleges are adapting workforce training programs in healthcare, information technology and manufacturing to respond to rapid technological changes taking place in the workplace. The researchers personally, I had the opportunity to meet with them, and they shared how impressed they were with Laney College, in particular our faculty, in terms of their innovation in instruction and their direct support to students. They really were like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing. So I was really honored and privileged to be serving with them. Wanted to share a thing about a faculty member as well. Dr. Adrienne Oliver is deeply committed to supporting men of color and creating instructional space for motivating them to read literature for liberation. Through her African American literature class this semester, Dr. Oliver created a man-to-man Motivational Monday speaker series that provides opportunities for students to connect with authors, playwrights, poets, and educators. Yesterday, Tongo Iason Martin, a revolutionary award-winning playwright, poet, and educator from San Francisco, shared the need for discipline in reading and how poetry can be used as a tool for unity and liberating the mind versus thinking about how you have to always sustain yourself, right? That really thinking beyond. And lastly, I'm really excited to share an accomplishment of two of our students, two journalism students, and one is here tonight, actually. Journalism student Casper, let me say his last name correctly, Dilmagoni. I think I said it right, Dilmagoni, and Manal Roach, who is here right in the audience, received... I apologize, Casper, received a semester-long paid internship through OnSpec Podcast. They will get training with writing, international reporting, social media engagement, and audio journalism. Casper is studying communication and journalism and is a staff writer and copy editor for The Citizen. He's based in Oakland, California. And Manal is a journalist and filmmaker from Tunisia and is currently studying multimedia. She is passionate about social change through storytelling, and we're so pleased our students have had this opportunity. Thank you.
Great. Excellent.
Good evening, board, chancellor, community members, faculty, administrators. From Merritt College, two announcements tonight. PACLA, Peralta Association of Chicanos, Latinos de Aztlán, together with students and members of the Merritt College community, will be hosting the second annual Merritt Latinx graduation celebration on Saturday, April 25th. The event will consist of a ceremony, music, and short speeches by student honorees. The keynote address will be given by the Honorable Rosie Rios, who served under Barack Obama as the 43rd Treasurer of the United States. So we're looking forward to that. And I also want to take a moment to congratulate Dr. Brad Belugian. Not only is Brad the director of Merritt's Natural History and Sustainability program, but he is also an author. And his latest book is titled The Wax Pack, An Open Road in Search of Baseball's Afterlife. And just to give you a sense of what this was, what he did was, the premise is basically he opened up a pack of Topps baseball cards from 1986, which was the first year he was started collecting baseball cards, took the 14 players out of that pack, and then traveled around the country to see what they were up to and follow their stories. So it's a fascinating concept and obviously a great read. On Saturday, he was actually on KMBR 680 doing an interview about the book, and he shouted out Merritt College and his faculty and his department. So I want to express my appreciation for that. And that's the report from Merritt.
Good evening and greetings from the island. I have two items for you tonight. One is just an update on how wonderful our men's basketball team did. I mentioned them in my last brief, but they played a couple more games past their last meeting, so I just want to give you every update because I know you'd be very, very interested in it. So in the first round of the playoffs, because we haven't made them for a while, so we're really keen on this, we did defeat rivals College of San Mateo's Bulldogs, which...
Check it out.
Yes.
Thank you for letting me know that.
And I was a tenured faculty member there, so hey. So that made me really, really happy on a Wednesday night. And then following that, the team went on a road trip up into the mountains to Columbia, College, and they were the 3rd seed in the region. And we did have a good game, but we did go down to Columbia. But I am so proud of the men's basketball team for the hard work they did, and they are definitely scholar athletes too. So we don't want to lose that also with all of our athletes we have in Peralta. So we are so proud of them. And then secondly, yeah, that's really good. They did fantastic. And then secondly, I want to give a shout out to one of our staff members, Brenda Lewis, who really was our champion on campus on planning our Black History Month. We had a lot of events this year, and Brenda did a yo person's job in marshaling a lot of people to get a lot of events and programs on our campus. And then the one thing she a tradition that she kept, and we've had it a long time at COA, is we capped off our Black History Month with a Sunday dinner. We didn't do it on a Sunday, we did it on a Thursday, but it's the same idea where we come together around food and have community. And she championed that, and it was a potluck. We brought food, bought lots of great things to eat, and I just want to thank her so much for making sure that tradition lasts at COA. We can all enjoy each other's company and be thankful for all the things we should be. So thank you.
Thank you, trustees. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you, college presidents. Before we move on, any comments or follow-up?
Amazing.
Trustee Brown.
2 Merritt students. They were listed on LinkedIn as being highlighted by Esurance from the cybersecurity program. National shout out, international shout out. So it's an excellent program, and we are making the news.
Very nice, very nice.
In a positive way.
Yes.
Right.
Trustee Weinstein.
Yeah, I just want to comment and give a shout out to the journalism department for doing the amazing work and having the students getting bylines and being paid. Yes, this is just this is extraordinary. This is a department. This is a journalism. A newspaper that is going to grow and grow and grow, and I hope that we all make sure that our friends, our family, and everybody else subscribe to thecitizen.com. Thank you so much.
That's great. Any other comments? Chancellor, if I can go back to just a couple of, first of all, thank you for the FCMAT update report. I was able to just kind of cruise through it very quickly. It looks like an incredible draft with some very clear information about the status of some of the items. Would it be possible to ensure that we have this report included as part of our board docs for reference? Okay, thank you. I think that would be very helpful. I did hear you mention about the virtual binder for the BOG, so that's amazing. Thank you. So thank you for the report. And thank you, college presidents. That was amazing. We will now move on to item 4.1, student success presentation. Dr. Brown.
Trustees and district community and Oakland Bay Area community. I'm happy to be here tonight with a group of colleagues to present to you the Peralta College's student success metrics. This is the first of 3 or more presentations about student success because there's so many things to cover. Tonight, what we want to do is work to ensure that the board, as well as the community, is updated in accordance with our policies, in accordance with ACCJC standards, in accordance with our own strategic goals, especially Goal A, and in accordance with the vision for success outlined by the state chancellor's office. We want to make sure that everyone is up to date on where we stand in terms of key data points and a look at the new metrics that the state is utilizing. In order to do this today, I'm going to introduce to you our recent hire, who's been a phenomenal addition to our research team, the Associate Vice Chancellor of Institutional Research, Dee Doan. if he could come forward. He's actually going to walk us through the data. And then we have Vice Presidents of Instruction and Vice Presidents of Student Services that are going to talk about how the data translates into what happens on the ground at the colleges. So that I don't have to stop to introduce them, I'd like to introduce to everyone, or reintroduce, from the College of Alameda, Vice President of Student Services, Tina Vasconcelos. She'll be presenting for her college. And Berkeley City College will have both the Vice President of Instruction, Cooney Hay, and the Vice President of Student Services, Stacy Shears. And for Laney College, we'll have both Vice Presidents, the Vice President of Student Services, Vicki Ferguson, and the Vice President of Instruction, Rudy Besikoff. And for Merritt College, we'll have the Interim Vice President of Student Services. And I really want to say that I work very closely and meet all the time with all of the vice presidents. They are amazing teams to work with. They're very smart, they're very engaged, and we work really well together. So I'm happy to have them come and talk about what's happening at their campuses. AVC, the Associate Vice Chancellor of Institutional Research, Dee Doan, will begin to walk us through some data points, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll allow for questions or comments.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Brown. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Chancellor Stanback-Stroud, and all of us here for tonight. My name is Dee Doan. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor of IR, and tonight I'm going to walk you through some key data points pertaining to the Vision for Success. So you may be familiar in the past, we have something called the Student Success Scorecard, and it's basically an accountability report that each individual college would provide. It contains key performance indicators. Since the release of the Vision for Success by the State Chancellor's Office, statewide, we are no longer producing a Student Success Scorecard. We have transitioned to what we now call the Student Success Metrics. If you go online, you can search Student Success Launch Board, and you can find a number of metrics pertaining to the Vision for Success. So for the sake of time and for tonight, we are focusing on 4 of the 6 goals with the data. These goals are basically from the Vision for Success. There are a set of ambitious goals set by the State Chancellor's Office for improving student success statewide. So goal 1 is to increase by at least 20% the number of award completions. This is basically looking at associate degrees, certificates, credentials, etc. Goal 2 is to increase by 35% the number of California community college students transferring to the CSU or UC system annually. Goal 3 is to shorten the time to degree completion of associate degrees. And so one of the metrics we look at statewide is the number of total units that students complete on average when they get to that degree. So the goal here is to reduce those average total units as a state system from 87 to 79, right? Goal 4 is to increase the percentage of students who say, these are CTE students, career technical education, who say they have found employment in an area that's closely related to their field of study. Goal 5 is basically a repeat of goals 1 through 4, but we're looking at disproportionate impact and equity gaps. So it is to reduce and close those equity gaps. And one of the methods in which we use is the percentage point gap method. Goal 5 is going to be presented to you with data at a later date and time because it's quite extensive and complex. Goal 6 is to reduce the regional achievement gaps across the state. For Goal 6, that's data that is really worked by the State Chancellor's Office. So once that data is becoming available to the districts and colleges, we'll be sure to pass them on and present them to you. Now, before we go further into the 4 goals, which I'm going to highlight today, goal 1 through 4 for tonight's presentation, I want to provide you some context on who are Peralta students. These are just some baseline metrics. We know there are much deeper questions that we could ask, but we wanted to provide you a basic idea of who we are talking about when we're talking about Peralta students. So annually, what you have here are the last 3 years of students. We could see basically the numbers here, who they reflect are students, the annual unduplicated headcount of students who were enrolled either in summer, fall, or spring semesters of a particular annual year, academic year. So if they were enrolled at any of those semesters, we include them in here. We don't overcount them. We don't double count them. So it's a straight up unduplicated head count. As you can see, this kind of reflects our enrollment trend. We've been declining, but in the last year, 18-19, we have about 31,350 students. So of that, we look at gender distribution. From here, about 55% of our students identify as male, and about 55% of our students identify as female, and about 44% of our students identify as male. From year to year, that ratio doesn't change too much. For student race and ethnicity distribution, we have 4 major groups that stand out. First is the Hispanic, Latino, Asian American, African American, and white students. What's interesting to note here is despite our current enrollment trend, what we see is the Hispanic, Latino population increasing for the past 3 years. While this is interesting, it's not too surprising because it aligns with the changing demographics of California, where we're becoming more Hispanic, Latino. For student age group, we break the data down further to show you, what's the composition of our students by age group. And the biggest group we have is the 19-year-old to 24-year-old, which is what we would expect. That makes up about 41% of our students. Here the data shows fall to spring persistence rate. The way we derive this is basically we take a look at all the students who were enrolled in at least one course in the fall semester. We would exclude any student who would have earned an award, meaning a degree or certificate, and we track those students to spring semester to see if they were enrolled in at least one course at point of census. So what you can see is in the last fall 18 to spring 19, we have about 69%. And the data here appears to show that we're increasing slightly. We would know better if this is becoming a trend once we get data for fall 19 to spring 2020. We further disaggregated data by race and ethnicity. The purpose and intent of this is so that we can examine and see which of our particular underrepresented student groups, how are they doing, and where might we be paying more attention in terms of student services and instructional support, which my fellow colleagues will talk more about later. The course retention rate, this is us looking at students who were able to stick through with the course to the end. And this is basically any student who, when they were enrolled in a course, did they earn a letter grade? If they earn a letter grade, we would include them here. If they withdrew, we don't include them in this population group. So we have about 81% of our students who would complete through and retain in the course. Again, we further disaggregate the data by race and ethnicity. We could see here the 2 groups that come in at the lowest rates are African American and American Indian students. For course success rate, we basically, this is slightly different from course retention rate. For course success rate, we will take a look at those students who have earned a passing grade, basically A, B, C, or P for passing grade, out of all the students who continue through. And so for that, we have about 71% of the course success rate for 18-19. Once again, the data is further disaggregated by race and ethnicity. We can see, again, the American Indian and African American student group come at the lowest, which kind of speaks to our student equity plan to address some of these underrepresented, underserved student population groups. So now going into the 4 goals, now that I have kind of provided you some basic metrics on who are students and how they're performing, I wanted to show you how we're doing in terms of the 4 goals per vision for success. So goal 1, as you may recall, we're trying to increase by 20% the number of degrees and certificates. We break this down by AA, AS earners, ADT, and credit certificate. When we say increase by 20%, what we're referencing is the 2016-17 baseline year, right? And so we have been given until 2021 to 2022 as a safe system to increase these numbers. So the projected number for AAAS that we're trying to achieve is 1,234, and the baseline is 1,028. So as you can see there, we're making small increments. There's definitely more work to be done here, and hopes that within the next 2 academic years, we're going to be able to work to improve these numbers. We've done a little bit better in terms of the associate degrees for transfer. As you can see, our goal is 413, and in the most recent year of 18-19, we have exceeded that goal. with having 426 completers of ADT. For credit certificate, that number has been declining for the past 3 years. We're looking further, and at a later date, we're going to provide you further data as to what might be going on. What's the story behind why these credit certificate earners are declining? For Goal 2, we're looking at those students that transfer to a UC or CSU system. So when we look at the CSU, we started at 545, we went up a little bit, and then we went back down to 515. We saw a bit more success recently with the UC. We started at 541, we went down to 528, and then we went back up to 573. When we combine both of these to look at them as an aggregate, there isn't too much of a difference. When we look at 1086 in the year 16-17 to what we have recently, 18-19 with 1088, it's been remaining constant. So we're looking further into ways and strategies to help improve the transfer success rate to the UC and CSU. There is a caveat I should mention per this data. It does not tell you the complete story. What you see here are these transfers to CSU and UC per Vision for Success. Our students transfer to lots of places. They go to private schools, they go to out of state, they go to many different places. We can provide you further data at a later point for you to see what's the full story and how many of our students are actually transferring to different places. We also have data from the National Student Clearinghouse, which is the entity that collects all the data of students from multiple different colleges. With that data, we can do better in tracking to see how many of our students actually transfer, because the data shown to you here tonight are actually data confirmed by the CSU and UC system from the data dashboard. These were the official confirmed numbers. But as you know, many of our community college students, they don't go to just sometimes one college district. They go to a neighboring college district as well. So they could very well go to a CSU or UC and declare their last college, right, which might not be one of Peralta colleges, but they're actually a Peralta student at some point where they might have earned, a portion of that unit or a significant portion of that unit. We would know better once we look at our NSC data. But if we were to look at the facts by the hard definition set by the state, this is what we see. So for Goal 3, as you recall, we're talking about shortening that time to degree completion. The goal here is to reach to 79 average unit, which is what the state has set. If we look at AA and AS earners, in the most recent year, that is about 88.6 units on average. There's some work for us here to do. We have strategies in place with our systems to help our students become more successful in this area. For ADT, we have achieved some success here. We went from 89.2 down to 88.3 and now 86.2. So we're hoping in the next couple of academic years, this trend will continue. Goal 4, the data here came from the CTE outcome survey that were distributed to students that attended Peralta. And so the students, we surveyed them when we asked them, hey, now that you found employment, is this closely related to your field of study? They would say somewhat closely related or very closely related. And the system goal is that 69% of these students would say so. What we found in our most recent year is that 71% of our students say so. So this is one of the stronger areas that we perform in for the Peralta district. So now that I'm done with this portion for the first 4 goals at a later date, just a reminder, I'll come back and present you more data on Goal 5, which looks into reducing the equity gap. So I'm going to transition over to my colleagues who are going to present to you some of the strategies that are occurring on the grounds at the colleges.
Thank you. Good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. So I want to sort of put what I'm going to say in a little bit of context. You guys got some data slides, right? And when we're looking at the vision for 2022 and achieving those goals, whenever we're looking at activities on the campus or interventions that we're coming up with, it takes years to have impact. So when we're looking at reducing, I'm not going to go back to the data, but when we're looking at reducing number of units to completion, which is a huge issue across the state, right? Some of the things that we're all going to talk about will impact that. But what it means is that it's going to take 2 years potentially to see a change in that data. Also with degree and petitions, if we're really sort of doing proactive interventions and increasing our SCPs across campus or across the district period, so that we're doing better planning, we're also using SCP data for enrollment management and offering classes. All of that takes time to sort of have impact, right? So while we can present, and this is data now, which is great that Dee is sharing this, the next time we come around, it may not shift a lot. Next year, ideally, we have a shift that's bigger, right? So you have slides in front of you, I know, and I just wanted to list a couple of things or highlight a couple of things that College of Alameda is currently doing. And one of them is guided pathways. As part of the Vision 2022, to reach the Vision 2022 goals from Chancellor Oakley, guided pathways is one of those statewide initiatives, not really initiative, but statewide tools, I guess, so that we can impact and achieve reducing the achievement gap or eliminating it, reducing units to completion and so forth. Guided pathways, what we've done at College of Alameda is we've convened teams of classified professionals, students, faculty, and administrators to come up with mapping of programs that we have on our campus. So for years, as you guys know, career technical education is great at mapping, right? I come in, I know what it's going to take for me to get from A to Z and say diesel mechanics. We're not so great about doing that college-wide for all of our degrees and certificates. So that's been the focus. College of Alameda focused on starting with the associate degrees for transfer. And so once it's super clear for students on what their pathway is, then the extraneous units can start to fall off, and we won't be having the 87 units or 79 units here in this district for a degree to completion. Or, for completion. So that's one of the things I wanted to highlight. The other thing on the next slide is we've implemented online counseling using Zoom and SARS integration this semester. We've just started this project in March. And basically, ACCJC requires that we do similar or same services for distance students as the same as face-to-face, right? It's been a struggle for all of us in the district to make that happen with large impact. So finally, I convened a task force of faculty last summer. There was 6 faculty that researched different platforms. They recommended doing this integration with Zoom and SARS, and then we went through process of integrating and getting it running, and so finally we're up and running. So students can now do online appointments at College of Alameda. So not only is that great because we can finally reach those distant students that we were not able to reach prior, right? So ideally then that means that the majority of students in online classes will have student education plans. There'll be less, taking too many units because I don't know what my path is supposed to be, and more concise and sort of degree completion data going forward. But in addition to that, it really helps us for what we're dealing with currently right now with COVID-19, because then we're ready to actually mobilize and serve the entire population, whether you're a distant student or not, in providing online services. So I'm going to turn it over to Berkeley City College. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So at Berkeley City College, we'll continue to develop clearly identified meta major and degree pathways. So we want to make sure that the students who are coming in, they know what options they have, and then that's presented to them in a really concise and in clear manner. And then also we are enhancing academic and educational support such as embedded tutoring and in counseling in college level math and English, but also on the online modality as well. And we are also enhancing career education, advisement, and counseling to align coursework and industry job skills to ensure job attainment with good wages. And then increasing online course offerings per data and then student demands where they need it, then we are really focusing on offering those courses.
We're also leveraging promise programs and learning communities to ensure student success with financial, academic, educational, and career advisement, including financial aid staff and some of our UCRC staff in our outreach, high school outreach visits. Doelle knows all about that. Holding a Student Success Day for new adult ed and high school students, April 24th, God willing, with COVID-19. And holding a BCC Family Dual Enrollment Night, April 9th. That's a new thing for us, as well as developing a retention campaign with assistance from Career Ladders with their GP Lab for Student Services. And we'll advance to the next college.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. On behalf of Laney College, our approach or our updates focus on external and internal partnerships and collaborative efforts. So our first bullet point talk about our external partnership with Oakland Adult and Career Education Program. And that's a program that offers GED classes to our community. And we actually have right now, we started in the fall semester, and currently we have over 100 students taking GED classes 5 days a week on our campus. And we also have 20 of those students who are concurrently enrolled. And as we continue to watch the progress of these students, we have built in support for transitioning the GED graduates to Laney credit classes. So that's an exciting opportunity to where we are exhibiting partnerships.
Good evening. So with those partnerships, we are certainly strengthening and building pathways, but I like to think of it as building bridges. And one particular bridge that is being developed right now, we are doing thanks to the funding we received from the CVC OEI CTE online grant. And we've emphasized with this grant developing 3 key areas of study that will result in gainful employment for students. First of all, when we talk about building, I guess I would be remiss if I hadn't included construction management, right? So that'd be the first one. Secondly, our one program that we're looking and we're truly planting a seed and we're going to watch it grow is our legal and community interpreting program. Now, these courses actually are going to lead and culminate in our students taking the California Court Interpretation Exam. So that's a basically employable tomorrow pathway for those students. And then the #1 major for our students, and the area in which we're going to not so much plant the seed, but really water a great tree, is our business program. We're going to strengthen and enhance our online offerings there. Now, you saw some data earlier on building students and building completers. And we have a great population at Laney. Well, we have many great populations, but one is our students who are enrolled in English for speakers of other languages. And you might think, well, online programs, and how are they going to be especially positioned? I say this to you tonight because our highest proficiency level, as a former ESL instructor, I'm so proud to say this, our highest proficiency level of ESOL involves classes that are offered in a hybrid setting. So these students going into these 3 career areas are going to be prepared in ways that are unique and innovative.
Our next item was an internal effort in collaboration, some work done with our Strategic Enrollment Management Committee as well as with our Guided Pathway Work Group. We were able to offer extended evening classes as well as services. So through the work of the Guided Pathways Work Group, student focus groups were conducted, asking students numerous questions about what do you need as far as your GE requirements, what are other services we can provide you. So right from the students, they shared we would love, because we work, more evening opportunities for GE classes and support services. So through a collaborative effort of instruction, student services, and business services, we were able to not only offer a few more GE classes in the evening, but also extended counseling services from 2 nights to 4 nights a week, also health services 1 night a week, which which we didn't have, as well as cashier services from 2 nights to 3 nights. So again, it's about partnerships internally and externally. Really want to highlight those.
And then in addition to the bridge building I mentioned earlier, and a lot of the being responsive to our students that VP Ferguson has spoken to tonight, I also wanted to mention the strengthening of partnerships as well, not only with industry, but also with our educational partners. As far as industry, certainly we have a number of partnerships, but I included these two tonight for your reference, just because there might be some recognition on your part, members of the board, because there were aspects of these partnerships that you all approved officially. So truly, we're partners. But I'd be remiss also if I didn't mention educational partnerships as well. And one that is truly special is our biomanufacturing program. Again, another area of study that leads to very gainful employment. The more common point of reference might be that a lot of our students completing these go and study at colleges like UC Davis. But one partnership that is truly unique is the one that we have with Solano Community College. For Solano College is one of the colleges within the state that has a bachelor's degree program. And students who exit our biomanufacturing program as sophomores who've completed go and do their junior and senior year at Solano Community College and continue that great experience. So you can see that a lot of exciting things are happening at Laney College.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lilia Chavez, and I'm here to represent Merritt College. I'm your acting VPSS. And our focus, we're doing everything everybody else is doing. I think fundamentally our biggest charge is really to get back on the grid, bring about some healing for our staff, our strong pillars of classified, working collaboratively with instruction and student services. And we've also made some progress. So we're looking specifically in student services, the development of our infrastructure and the high touches really, that we are more intentional in how we use our funding, our C funding, for the disproportionate impact communities we serve. We've been reviewing also data to the specific categorical programs that serve our student populations that are low income and need-based, and to see how we can improve and leverage that data to provide additional services aside from what they provide our students. We have a strong learning community with FYE, Sankofa, and Puente, and we are intentional about how they are exposing the students to four-year universities in the HBCUs. But more importantly, we are looking at data that we noticed that there's a high increase in our students completing English in the learning communities, but not math. So we're going to start a pilot to really incorporate the math component, so that way our students are more successful in their academic journeys. We've also been successful in implementing our basic needs support, our Campus Hunger Free initiative, and our legal services for our undocumented students. And the Hunger Free really focuses on a number of aspects. We are working collaboratively with our landscape horticulture. So the food that they grow, the students grow, they're feeding them to our students. So that it's a partnership that we have, aside from the pantry, aside from the food bank. So we're trying to be more collaborative on campus. We've also set aside some funding for field trips, like when our athletic teams are going away, we can also offer them lunches to take. And we have, for the evening, we have an evening vendor outside that we have, it's not always the best food, but it's something for students that are hungry on campus to go to our outside vendor and in the cafeteria. So other than that, I think we're moving towards really collectively, our team is building a stronger collaboration across instruction and student services. So thank you.
Thank you to the Vice Presidents of Student Services and the Presidents for all the great work happening at the colleges. And now we welcome any questions or comments to AVC Doan or to the vice presidents.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for this comprehensive presentation. And I do. Trustee Brown.
So first of all, I want to thank you wholeheartedly, the presenters, the vice presidents of student services, our vice chancellor of instruction. This is the core of what it means to be a trustee. This is the core of it, the students and the students' success and their progress. It almost moves me to tears that we can have this presentation and talk about our students and talk about the progress that they're making and the drill down on data showing what works for them and asking them what they need and then shaping the programs around what they need. That is what this whole experience is about. So thank you. I really appreciate that. And one of the questions I had is that we spend a lot of time as trustees training about student success through data disaggregation and through data-driven solutions. And I'm wondering about some of the goals that we had. We saw the differentiation in the statistical progress, but I'm wondering do we know how we achieved certain increments of progress? Do we know what works for the students? Do we know why there was a slight drop-off in some of the goal attainment for the current year? Because I could read the charts, but I don't know what's behind them. I don't know how to make it better. And that's what some of us believe that we could close the achievement gap by removing the barriers to equity. And that is what I want to, the only way we're going to do that is the core teams that we have there at the college. You guys are the ones that make all this happen. And so the question is, what's behind the numbers? How do we find out what works and what we need to be nimble about changing?
I think that's a great question, and it is something that we discuss and spend a lot of time on. And this is where the district and the colleges work really well together. We work in IR to provide data, deeper data really than this, very specific data, and we bring it forward and have discussions with our VPs, with the presidents, with cabinet. And the discussion is just about that. What are we doing to actually impact the data? Do we know what's working and what's not working? In my opinion, we still have a lot of work to do on that. But the student-centered funding formula is really kind of pushing for that to happen more so because so much is tied also to our allocations. So I would invite anyone else to come up and answer this question. But I think that it's really relevant because you'll see in later presentations during the next months about what we're doing to maximize the SCIF in the supplemental and the success metrics, and that work and that analysis is also addresses what you're talking about. But I'll invite AVC Doan to comment.
Hi, Trustee Brown, you're absolutely correct. The data are just numbers. They reflect something that's going on, but unless we understand what's the context and what's the story behind the data, we really can't make good changes. So some things that we're trying to do with just the data presented to you tonight were more summary data. We have a lot more what I call intermediate metrics that we use to see how we're progressing towards these final metrics. We look at transfer level for math and English completion. We look at, since AB 705, we're currently looking into, since the implementation of AB 705, how many more sections of transfer level math and English do we have? How many more of our students are completing? Because in order for you to transfer, you got to complete these courses. That's just one example of many things that we're doing as intermediate metrics that we work closely with the college campuses to develop. We're also in the process of working to develop more operational tools that helps people track where our students are coming in from, how are we serving them. We hear the feedback a lot from our on-the-ground staff, our classified staff that are working with students day to day to see what are their pain points, what are they struggling with in terms of systems, in terms of technology. We're working closely with them. but it's going to take some time to fix some of these systemic shortages, these gaps. I don't know if my colleagues have any more comment to add.
Yes, we'd like to hear from a campus to answer that question.
So I can speak to this. So I hear your question. I'm not sure that you just got an answer. But one of the things I think that this is an issue, as VC Brown mentioned, that grappling with what is your intervention, what is the outcome, is there a correlation or not to an actual decrease in gap, right? Or decrease in units to goal or what have you. I think that the colleges, so you're looking at data in part that was shared from 2016. We were not doing this or having this discussion in 2016. I know that. Right? It's newer sort of on the campuses and district-wide that we've been doing this. The other thing is that many of the colleges just got their researchers back, right? So we can finally, while we can get sort of larger scale data in this format in part from the district office, we can now actually sort of chunk through the numbers locally and really look at what are our interventions that we're doing. One of the things that I can say that we did at College of Alameda, we all have different approaches, but we hired an SCA coordinator. So of the C funds, we have a coordinator. That coordinator's sole role is retention and success. And so her job is to look at the data. She's working side by side with our director of research, doing queries to look at what's our data in SEPs, who's got them, who doesn't have them, how can we do proactive interventions and reach them, and then start to sort of change these numbers, right? But I think that, I don't know if, we don't have an exact answer, but I think it's nuanced, and as we continue to sort of build our teams locally and across the district, we can then start to answer these questions.
I have one other question. In 2016, we received equity funds from the State Chancellor's Office to support hiring, more inclusive hiring. And I recall that we had our largest a number of new faculty and administrators that were from diverse backgrounds. And I remember, and so do you, and then some of you guys I remember came in because we were in Laney College in the auditorium, and you guys stood up when we were having one of those flex days. Linda's not here good because she'd tell me my memory's scary. But in any case, do you remember how many people that are on your team now that are implementing these student success measures that were hired in between the 2014, 2016, between that time when we were getting the equity funds from the state?
Does anybody want to answer that? I do know, I don't have the data in front of me, but I do know that our hiring continues to be diverse. And I looked at the new hires this year and was really happy to see the number of Latinx faculty that we're bringing on to Peralta, because that is our biggest gap. Again, I can't give you the numbers now. I'd be happy to send it. But I welcome anyone else to comment about what has happened in the past about this.
Nobody's been here long enough to answer the question but the trustees? Is that what I'm saying?
That might be part of it.
Trustee Weinstein.
Yeah, hi. Again, thank you so much for doing this report. It's really what I think we've been looking for a while, so it's very appreciated, and it gives us a real lot of information. So thank you, all of you as well, coming from the different colleges. In a few of the charts, I wasn't sure, was it just numbers of students or was it percentage? I think it was numbers of students.
Which chart are you referring to? Because it may be one or the other.
Let's see, completion, CTE, completion of courses or completion of...
oh, up above.
Yeah. These here.
It was just there.
Right before that.
This one?
No, right after that. Yeah.
Degrees?
Yeah, are those completion, are those percentage or?
No, those are actual head counts.
Those are head counts, so.
Am I right?
They're based upon, we take a look at the, those students who have earned the awards, yes, so the counts of students who have earned the award, and then we compute the average units. So what you see when we say 88.6 is the average number of units of all of our AAAS degree earners. What is their total units average?
So what is the percentage of students who are getting either transferring or getting the degrees, the certificates?
Okay, that data is not in here. We're happy to follow up with you. I
Yes.
think the question you're asking is, okay, of our students, how many of them actually transfer? Essentially, what happened to our students? How many of them transfer? How many of them earn a degree or award? How
Right.
many of them, if they didn't do those things, what happened to them, essentially?
Right.
I'm happy to follow up with you further at a later time to provide that data.
Okay, that would be really helpful. And I think you were talking about earlier on that we could actually look on the success.
Yes, so just a word of caution.
Okay.
It's kind of a complicated time right now within the state system. We have
Okay.
what is the SCIF. We have the data mart
Right.
produced by the State Chancellor's Office using MIS data. And then we also have Cal Passports, which is now an entity working with the Student Success Launch Board. When you go to these tools, just keep in mind that they were all taken, the data were taken at a various point in time with different definitions. You would think that we would have these definitions are aligning. They do not. So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
I'm happy to sit with you, or
Okay.
if you have further questions where you would want to know why is the data showing the way they are, I'm
Yeah.
happy to explain those to you. But the data is out there. Our state is using it. There's still a lot of cleaning up in terms of Student Success Launch Board
Okay,
that needs to be done.
I appreciate that. And just one last thing. How do we relate to other community colleges in our in this area, the Baytown?
That's a great question. We haven't conducted data on that, but it's something that we can look into.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Trustee Reese?
Again, yes, I will repeat, thank you. Thank you for these presentations because they really are gratifying to hear, and it's also really good for us to be able to see more closely what is going on between the different colleges. I just want to highlight 4 of the things that I'm very excited about in terms of the different colleges. Very excited to hear about the embedded tutoring and the leveraging the Promise program at Berkeley City College, the Hunger-Free Initiative over at Merritt. That's really pretty awesome in terms of the horticultural garden and that being fed to the students. I think that that's great. The guided pathways and the ways in which you are using Zoom counseling at the College of Alameda. I think that that's really particularly wonderful, especially given our current environment right now. Great that you were ahead of it before we got to this situation. And then at Laney, the collaborative partnerships with the community and that legal and interpretive program. That is very, very exciting. So those things are all just wonderful to hear. And now my questions. I have a few questions in terms of what we just went over. And I guess the question that I have is it's great to see these different percentages, of course, and the different population numbers, but it also would be really good to be able to see them within the context of the state. So if we were able to see it next to the statewide average, which is available on the Data Mart, and not Data Mart, but the CalPass, for example, that allows us to be able to say, oh, Peralta is doing well, Peralta is not doing well, so on and so forth. And I think that that's accessible. And the other thing that I was going to say was, if I think back to the state of the system for Vision for Success that was given by Oakley in, I think, the January of 2019, even in that particular PowerPoint presentation and state of the system, he had shown the 5 different goals and had also shown the ways in which the benefits or consequences or changes that we were hoping to see were not yet visible. And so as we look at these numbers and you see a flatness or a little bit of a decline, again, if we saw it within the bigger context, we would fully understand that what we're seeing is symptomatic of the state also on some level.
Yes.
So I think if we could insert that, that would be very helpful for us, and it would give us a better sense also for the district how we're doing, really. and how these goals and the vision for success orientation is really doing in terms of its implementation throughout.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. We will definitely look into that because you're right, there's a bigger picture here. I think as we look at Peralta, it's just one perspective of looking into the story. These are very ambitious goals, and they speak to the systemic challenges that we have within the state. So we will look into that.
Thank you for that. Trustee Withrow?
Thank you very much for the presentation. It's the meat of this whole operation, and it's certainly for the representatives, the 9 representatives we have here on the board. We're here to advocate for the community colleges. We're here to advocate for the colleges that were within the Peralta system, and to have this come alive as to what's going on and how we're doing it, where we're headed, is extremely important to me.
Yeah.
To me. And again, it's not only just for Peralta, but one of the roles we have is to advocate for community colleges, certainly within the state of California, but across the country, the concept. Couple things that I would like to see a little more of by college is the number of students in a percentage, however you want to put it, that are there for transfer, that's our goal, or there for certificate, an AA degree, career technical education, or continuing education. If we could have something that would put that into a framework. But one of the things, and you know, you could go on forever on this particular thing, but one of the things that I think would add is to determine how well our students that do go on to four-year universities, how well do they do? We're told that our students, 8 out of 10 of our students outperform students that take their courses in lower division at the university level. It'd be great if we had some data to back that up.
I can speak to that because I came from the UC system. So
That's right.
I can speak a little more to that. I don't know if the exact number is 8 out of 10, but generally in the College of Engineering, at least at UC Davis, what we do see is transfer students are much more prepared once we admit them, because the standard in which we set forth at the UC system prior, when we admit these students, were at a high caliber. And so once the students come into the system, they do perform quite well. So yes, that is true.
Okay, can we get some data to?
The complication of that.
Some of the things I've read
Sure.
on the four-year university level, whether public or private, that there's a very high dropout rate. In other words, it's this is a carryover from the student debt type thing where they do the analysis, but.
I can't promise that that is something that is within my control. But what we can do is we can reach out to the UC system to see currently on their data dashboards, what do they have in terms of transfer students and what has been the success story there. And if we can, we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you so very much
Thank
for
you.
the report.
Thank you.
Yes. Chancellor, I just have to say that that was a great report. Yes, it was good. We will move into presentations, I'm sorry, consent calendar. Yeah, I want to stay here the rest of the night, sure. Consent calendar.
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Second. I'm glad I'm making you all laugh tonight. And so we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
So moved. Student Trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student Trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Trustee Gonzalez-Yuen? Yes. Trustee Weinstein? Yes. Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napolia-Bella Reese? Yes. And Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. We'll move to our action item 9.1, consider approval of personnel items. That item was moved to action. Can I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
It's been moved twice and seconded once.
I second.
We're getting delirious
Yes.
at 9:50.
We have a second by trustee Withrow. And the item is up for discussion. Seeing none, we will go ahead and do roll call.
Student trustee Stanley?
Yes.
Student trustee Contreras?
Yes.
Trustee Withrow?
Yes.
Trustee Handy?
Yes.
Trustee Gonzalez Yuen? Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli Bellarice?
No.
Trustee Bonilla?
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries.
Thank you. We will move to action item 10.1. Consider board vote for CCCT board elections. And it looks like I am the presenter. And so I'll go to my board clerk because she always helps me out when I have no idea what I'm doing.
Trustees, up for your vote would be, in included in your trustee packets for consideration are a slate of candidates for the CCCT Board of Community College League of California. It's due by April 25th, and the board can vote for up to 9 CCCT board candidates.
Okay.
No cumulative voting is allowed.
No what?
No cumulative votes are allowed.
Okay.
We all know what cumulative means, but what does it mean in this
In that context.
I can clarify what CCLC means by that, but that's exactly what they have in their language. As far as voting, it's been past practice that the trustees vote for the incumbents. This year, we do have one of our own who is up for election, which is trustee Napoli Bellarice.
Okay.
So what does the cumulative, someone would like to clarify?
So there's 6 incumbents?
Okay. Yeah. So a cumulative voting system helps strengthen the ability of minority shareholders to elect a director. For an example, is used in business and industry. So this allows people to cast all of their votes for a single nominee. You know, so like if you have.
Right, so just one per,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And how
But you
do
don't
we-
have shares.
Okay,
Yeah.
and Madam Clerk, how do we propose to take this vote from each of the trustees?
So we can recommend that for the 9, we can vote for the incumbents, and then it would be up to the trustees to decide who would be the remaining candidates that you can vote for.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I see 6 incumbents. Okay, which means there are-
Correct, so then you would choose from the other ones that are up, the remaining ones that are up for election.
Okay.
Yes, so you have the opportunity to vote on 9 candidates. If you want, you can individually consider each of the candidates, or you can consider a slate of candidates. So if somebody wants to make a motion and recommend a slate, then you could do that. But you basically can vote on 9 candidates.
And thank you for that. And trustee Handy?
I'm not really comfortable with this for a couple of reasons. This is a little bit different than we've done it before. There really are probably only 3 trustees who know all of these people. And I do think it's great to support the incumbents who've been doing a great job. I just don't feel like that we should be trying to push this through tonight and that we should take it to the next meeting, that we need to do a poll. Because there are people here that have done just incredible work, and there's only possibly 3 slots. And of those 3 slots, there's some pretty dynamic people as well that I've worked with for, over quite a few over the years that have done committees and all of that. And because the majority of our board doesn't know, they won't know any of these people at all, I think that let's not do this tonight, please. Can we just do a poll or send something out and pull a majority from that.
And I think that's a great suggestion, Trustee Handy. And I think in preparation to bring this item back to the board, perhaps we have a ballot of some sort where we can actually take a vote here at the dais when it comes back to us, but we can talk a little bit more about what that looks like. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, Nikki has a comment.
Trustee Gonzalez.
I just would like us to be very attentive to the Brown Act requirements here. Secret ballots are not allowed. We did a secret ballot the other day on this dais, and as I read the Brown Act, it was like, it doesn't. I don't want to go into it, but I think we did something where we did voting, and then we had pieces of paper, and then we added them all up.
It was the hiring committee
It was,
for the chancellor.
Yeah, might have been. I can't remember exactly how it went. No, I think it actually might have been Citizens Oversight Committee or something like that. But in any case, when we read the Brown Act, there's a specific provision about secret ballots, and they say you can't do it. So I really appreciate Trustee Handy's suggestion that we just come back on this, and having done our homework on what is an appropriate and legal method of casting ballots and having an appropriate discussion that comports with the open meeting laws, I think that'd be great. Thank you, and thank you, Trustee Handy, for your suggestion.
Thank you for that. We will move to item 10.3, consider adoption of resolution 19/20-39, authorizing contract for network equipment for the College of Alameda Liberal Arts Building. May I have an approval?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been the motion's been approved with a second.
With Stanley.
I'm sorry, the
It's been-
motion's been moved,
And there's been a second.
and there's been a second.
Student Trustee Stanley,
Yes.
Well, okay, we're taking,
do we get a second?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
It was Student Trustee Stanley. He seconded.
Student Trustee Contreras,
Yes.
Trustee Withrow,
Yes.
Trustee Handy? Yes. Trustee Gonzalez-Yuan? Trustee Weinstein? Trustee Brown?
Yes.
Trustee Napoli-Bella-Reese? Trustee Bonilla?
yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. We will move to 11.1, Board of Trustee reports. Trustee Brown.
Well, I missed our last meeting. I had a sinus infection, so I really didn't get to, you guys probably reported out on the meeting, the meeting in DC, the ACCT meeting? Okay. So I think really all I have to add is that we're continuing to work on issues regarding student success through CCLC and ACCT, and also working on how to train ourselves to have more inclusive hiring practices so that we have pools of candidates that are more diverse, so that we appropriately support our students, and so that we more equitably mirror our student demographic, our student population. And so that's really all I have to report, because it's been consuming quite a bit of time, I think. We will be working on on the national trustee level, a toolkit for equity. And so it's really important that we're practicing that here at Peralta, because it's something that we spend a lot of time training, learning, its professional development. So I would say that that's probably one of the key things that we're actually trying to do, instead of continuing to accept inequities and gaps in student performance as something that just happens because we have had a history of disenfranchisement of population groups, but to actually address that and take on that responsibility as an academic institution to be just and to live social justice, I think is something that I'm glad to see we're getting a report on student equity, and that we're actually putting our efforts into that in a real way.
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Weinstein.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I had the honor and pleasure to go to the Women's Leadership Club at BCC, where they did the kickoff of the Women's History Month, and they also had a panel on women who were in professions that were male-dominated, and it was a really fascinating panel, and they had two faculty members there, plus a lawyer from San Francisco. And I just want to say that the people who led that particular workshop did a fantastic job. So I was very honored to be there. And I'm also happy to say that I've started actually going to the Berkeley Rotary Club, which turns out to be the third oldest club in the country. So it's pretty extraordinary. And they're doing, I mean, practically every person that was at the place where I was are doing incredible projects. And at least one of the projects is giving money to the Laney Pantry and also creating, let's see, toiletries that are given out. I guess there are 500 bags of toiletries that are given out, and those are Rotary members who work on that. So I'm excited actually to be involved in that. I think the Rotary Club offers a lot, and hopefully will help have them become more and more involved with our community colleges. Lastly, I just want to let people know, and I'll try to find a way to do this somehow in writing, is that the American Association of University Women in Berkeley is paying for 5 scholarships for a student leadership conference. And the deadline now is later. It's April 3rd. So if you have any interest in that, I hope that you will apply. You can come from any of the colleges, but you do have to be a Berkeley area resident. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Trustee Gonzalez-Wynn.
Thank you. This past weekend and Monday, I had the opportunity to participate in the Faculty Association of the California Community Colleges Advocacy and Policy Conference. And the theme this year was building a movement to fight for every student. We had something like 200 participants, and it's a little dicey in these times trying to gather bunches of people. So, you know, we were washing our hands frequently and like that. Among those participants were about 80 students, and we had very strong representation from the Student Senate from the California Community Colleges. And I really commend that organization for taking the role of advocacy really seriously. And this year they're doing something kind of extraordinary, and they're changing the way they're electing their statewide officers, and they're doing that at their General Assembly, which will be in April this year. And I think it's going to infuse a lot more democracy into that organization. I'll just mention one or two other highlights. Our keynote speaker was Jeff Duncan Andrade, who's an associate professor of Raza Studies and Race and Resistance Studies at SF State. And one of the things he notes in his work is that our students come to us with a lot of trauma, and then we just need to be cognizant of that and figure out how do we work with students where they are. And it's not always just work that is like, you know, the straight up, here is information, ingest this information. A lot of times the work that we're doing with students is affective work. I think Trustee Handy spent a whole career doing exactly that work. And so it was really a profound gathering of faculty, of staff, of students, of allies, and then followed by a lobby day. And to see both faculty and students prepare to go into the Capitol, talk to legislators, really represent there in a powerful way was really important. And I think my key ask on my lobby visits was, would you please kill Calbright? There is $100 million of unspent money there that could be spent actually supporting real students who have real need and real colleges who are prepared to provide those students with services. Would you please kill Calbright? And I'm happy to say that with the former governor now gone, there's a lot more openness to really reconsidering the wisdom of last year's budget regarding Calbright. So maybe, I think if we keep working at it, we may actually end up with a more rational way of thinking about online learning and the dissemination of online learning tools. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Trustee Withrow. Student Trustee Stanley. Trustee Handy.
I was a student at Peralta. Okay. Just real quickly, I had the opportunity at the invitation or insistence, if you all know Tony Cook, to attend the American Indian Model School reception. I think it was last week. And it was an amazing week because first on that Sunday, we received a check from one of our, an organization, one of our former students, Adrian Abuyan, student trustee, was saying, well, Adrian is also sitting on the board of American Indian Model School, as well as Tony Cook and some other people that I know. I mean, I just burst with pride. And then as I walked in, I hear my name called, Linda, and I look over and it's my neighbor, a young Eritrean male who I just adore. There's 5 children from that family, and all of them are brilliant. And that is because of this school. They've attended from elementary all the way through. My thing is, and what Tony Cook is for us to be really familiar with this K through 12 organization. And I mean, they're having a challenge because they need a physics and calculus teacher, I mean, at the junior high level. And my neighbors are not being able to get everything that they need because they're so advanced. Maybe we can have a relationship where our students can do tutoring or something like that with that organization. But just to see the potential that's coming through the pipeline that can end up at Peralta, you would all be so proud. And they actually even play musical instruments, and they play guitars for us, and they did performances, and they spoke. But it was just really wonderful to see the great things that are happening in Oakland, and also to know that some of those things are happening because of our former students and faculty administrators. Thank you.
Thank you. Student Trustee Contreras.
Good evening, everyone. Foremost, I'd like to thank everybody here at the district and immense gratitude from all the students on our behalf on what you guys are doing to make sure that we have some peace of mind, and we do really, really do appreciate it. However, throughout all 4 campuses, it is a very, very, very real concern of us attending classes on campus because of the severity, how close it is to home now, especially now. Everybody watches the news, and social media doesn't help either. But I know a lot of students have reached out to me in different ways, but it is a very big concern for the majority of us, especially in certain areas more than others. Not to pinpoint any other school, but it is a concern. I know it is a concern for me. I know I haven't attended, particularly because I'm like, okay, do I really want to get sick? And I know in the long run, being out of school in the long term affects me more than in a short term. However, I also did want clarity, maybe I guess from the district. Our class is in effect tomorrow.
We are going to cancel classes tomorrow and make the recommendations like I outlined in the Chancellor's report. That information is scheduled to go out. We are trying to get out of here, and that information is scheduled to go out as soon as we finish this. And we are prepped to change the website, send the students emergency text, and send out the email to all faculty and staff so that they will wake up to the information.
Sorry. Does this go throughout the remainder of the week?
We're recommending that we are canceling classes on tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday.
Okay. Face-to-face instruction, just to make, not the online courses, correct?
Face-to-face instruction.
Okay,
Tomorrow,
just for
Thursday, and
clarity.
Friday. Yes.
when the emergency goes out, it's saying it's not that, it's because you're going to be doing prep.
Yes.
And so when you say emergency, that kind of freaks people out as if something has
No,
happened.
well, if I said emergency, I didn't mean to say
No,
that.
no, I was just wondering.
Oh, you
You're
mean
using
the
like the
alert.
emergency system to
Got it.
alert them, but just what you said to us about allowing faculty members to prep and prepare.
Right.
In case something else happens.
Right.
So
Right.
that it doesn't go out immediately that there's something happening here at Peralta.
Yeah, I should have said the
Yeah.
student alert system.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Student,
Thank you so much.
Trustee Reese.
Just
Madam
have-
Vice President.
I have two very relatively quick updates. We attended the Apollo luncheon, which was Saturday of last week, and they honored quite a few leaders. And the leaders were Victor Uno, Sherry Hirota, Hiroshima Shimizu, and Kaznagamu, Louisa Blue, who's vice president of SEIU, Rexy Dixon, and Jun Hamamoto. And what I found really interesting about many of the speeches by those leaders was that leadership comes in so many different ways and examples. And there was a young girl who actually spoke about Victor Uno. She was also being honored, as was he. And she had said that her most vivid memory of him is seeing how he talks to people and seeing how he leads, where he is a quiet leader and he always keeps people and kind of, even though he's not physically doing it, embraces them with this incredible amount of respect. And he doesn't feel like he needs to argue and he doesn't feel like he needs to demand. And so that was really kind of interesting because it was a young girl that was looking up at this particular man in terms of his demeanor. So that was really wonderful to see. And then the second thing I did with Melissa Wilk, who's the state auditor or the Alameda County auditor, we had lunch with a man named Patty Iyer, who in 2016 created or started a company called the Daily Bowl. He's a business owner, was in restaurants and a variety of different things, but he was so fed up with hunger that he was seeing around him, and that was in 2016. Obviously, that's become much, much worse, that he decided that he was going to do something about it. And he created the Daily Bowl, which goes to markets all over and restaurants all over, and legislation changed in such a manner that he was able to get the excess food from these places and redistribute it to homes and individuals and institutions and even colleges. So he's working with Ohlone at this particular point. But Melissa and I both had said that when we grow up, he's not that much older than we are. But when we grow up, we want to be like him because he sees a problem, he acts on it, and he just, there's nothing else that exists for him than making the problem go away.
Thank you, everyone. I also had the honor of attending Apollo with my colleague here, Madam Vice President, and so it was an amazing event.
Yes.
Well attended here locally in Oakland at the Buddhist Temple. All of the honorees were absolutely amazing and pillars throughout our community. But I also believe there were attendees from across the country, including Hawaii. So that was pretty incredible. So with that, I know that we are in trying times right now. I know that our administration, being led by our chancellor, is doing everything humanly possible to allay fears and to really put some measures in place to ensure that students are being served well, that faculty and the community are being served in this very trying time. So I thank you and appreciate that. So let's go ahead and move to announcements.
Can I say one more thing?
We do have one more comment.
I just wanted to say it is Women's Month, so Sunday was Women's International Day. Thank you to all the women present, everyone that's listening, all of the ladies on all of our campus. Thank you for everything that you guys do, because we know men could not handle that burden. Yeah, no offense, men, no offense. You guys haven't gone through labor yet. Thank you.
We'll move to announcements. Thank you.
We have a few announcements, Madam President. The next regular board meeting will be held in 2 weeks on March 24 here at the District Office Boardroom. The board extends its sympathy to the friends and family of former Peralta trustee Darrell Carter, who recently passed away, and he served from 1984 to 1988. And one last thing, everyone keep safe, keep healthy, wash your hands, don't touch your face, and all the things that we need to do. And always do elbow hugs, don't do anything else but that, and keep healthy. Have a good night.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.
Tonight was particularly tiring. It's, this too will pass. Like my daughter's teenage years, this too will pass.
How is she doing?
She's 14. Oh,